Urgent changes on Bankova Street. Zelensky has dismissed Yermak. A complete overhaul of the president's office. Ukraine has never seen anything like this before. Something incredible is happening right at this very moment. Belarus is arming itself with mega weapons. No one has yet foreseen the courses and movements. Erdogan is raising an army and leading it straight into Ukraine. France and Britain are joining in. NATO is ready to deploy its army right on our soil. More on all of this coming up. Watch until the end. Ukraine Today welcomes you. Renata Aslanova and the latest events. Urgent, head of the president's office, Andriy Yermak, is resigning. This was announced by the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in his evening address. I
am grateful to Andriy for always representing the Ukrainian position in negotiations exactly as it should be. It was always a patriotic stance. But I want there to be no rumors or speculation.
The head of state announced that he is initiating a reboot of the president's office. He announced consultations with a new candidate for the position of head of Bankova.
There will be no mistakes on our part. Our work continues. Our struggle continues.
This morning, NABU and SAP conducted searches at Andriy Yermak's premises in the government quarter. By the way, the head of NABU, Semen Krivonos, commented on the rumors about a person nicknamed Ali Baba, who is mentioned in the recordings from the Maidos case investigation, and on claims that this person is allegedly Yermak. Krivonos responded that he could neither confirm nor deny such a statement. It has also become known that on November 29th, Zelensky will hold consultations with candidates to replace the dismissed Yermak. And
when we are all facing such an external challenge, a war, we must be strong on the inside. 100% of our efforts will be focused on defending Ukraine. Everyone now must act in this way, in the interest of our state, and defend our state.
An unexpected turn of events. Turkey is ready to send its military to Ukraine. One of NATO's key armies appears to be openly ready to go against the Russian Federation. The world is watching tensely. The country's Ministry of Defense has issued a statement.
First and foremost, a ceasefire must be established between Russia and Ukraine. After that, it is necessary to establish the framework of the mission with a clearly defined mandate as well as determine the contribution of each country. The Turkish armed forces are ready to support any initiative that will bring security and stability.
This statement came after French President Macron suggested that future support forces could include French, British, and Turkish soldiers. The main dictator, Vladimir Putin, is also not holding back from making loud statements. The head of the Kremlin announced that Russia will continue the war against Ukraine until Ukrainian troops leave their positions.
Ukrainian troops will withdraw from the territories they occupy. Then the fighting will stop. If they don't leave, we will achieve this by military means.
At the same time, Putin noted that supposedly it is legally impossible to negotiate peace with Ukraine.
Signing documents with the Ukrainian leadership is pointless. They made a strategic mistake when they were afraid to hold elections.
Moreover, Putin emphasized that there are still no final agreements on adopting a peace plan. And the day before, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov essentially gave a signal. Moscow will not accept the updated American peace formula if it takes Russia's interests into account less than the previous version did. An urgent scandal is looming on the horizon. Information has surfaced that Belarus may have secretly assembled a new cruise missile for the Kremlin. Lukashenko has long been playing a shadow game, handing Putin gifts that not even everyone in Russia itself knows about. Finally, the first details have emerged. There was
CCM low-cost cruise missile. The Mk-2 is classified as a low-cost cruise missile. It can destroy targets at a distance of up to 1,000 kilometers and has a small warhead weighing up to 50 kilograms.
The new weapon was presented at an exhibition. The manufacturer is a Belarusian Emirati company, which stated that the development of the complex, including the launcher and missile, has been completed, so they will be tested in the near future.
Given that E-System Solutions claims their LCCM Mark II missile was created based on experience from the Ukrainian theater of operations, it is possible that Russian specialists were involved in its development. And the public demonstration can be explained by a desire to throw sand in people's eyes. As if to say, this is a joint Belarusian Emirati development, and Russia has nothing to do with it.
Urgently, the war has broken through Russia's border. A wave of blackouts has hit several regions at once, and Moscow is frantically preparing for a new shock. In the special operation, they break out without warning. Epic footage has already flooded the internet. The Kremlin can no longer drown out the cries of Russians themselves. The Kremlin's empire is barely standing on its feet. The end of the Russian Federation is almost tangible now. The first details of the shocking strikes and the energy war that is devouring the enemy are coming up next in the report.
The armed forces of Ukraine are significantly increasing both the number and effectiveness of strikes on Russian heat and power generation facilities. The actions of Ukraine's defense forces are a response to the ongoing strikes on Ukraine's civilian and critical infrastructure.
In order to somehow bring this war to a stalemate, to shift it, we need to learn not only to repel enemy attacks on the front line, but also to suppress their logistics and their aviation. That's why it became necessary, and I'm not even mentioning the need to strike at Russia's military-industrial enterprises and energy system.
By trying to leave Ukrainians without electricity, the Russian dictator is dooming millions of Russians to a dark and cold winter. If, for example, a blackout is threatened in the capital of Ukraine, the Kremlin must realize that a blackout will also come to the Russian capital.
This is Belgorod. Basically, there's no electricity anywhere in Belgorod right now.
Since the beginning of November, Ukraine has carried out dozens of strikes on Russian electrical substations. Long-range drones are cutting off power in occupied Donetsk and Crimea.
Basically, charge your phones. Looks like they've decided to cut our power everywhere. I stopped counting after more than 30. Chak, Kaluzhskaya 32, darkness, and then it keeps going. Darkness, darkness, darkness.
And cruise missiles and rocket drones are introducing millions of residents in the European part of Russia, including Moscow and the Moscow region, to the delights of blackouts. In addition to Ukrainian weapons, we shouldn't forget about the supply of Western arms, which Ukraine has also recently started using to strike Russian territory.
The necessary approval has been obtained. Therefore, we can say that the territories of the Rostov, Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions are within the strike zone. I want to emphasize again, they are vulnerable to attacks by Western strike systems, such as the Scalp and Storm Shadow, and accordingly, the modernized version of the S-200 surface-to-air missile system.
Before the onset of winter, Ukraine possesses a wide range of powerful long-range weaponry. Bark, Pekla, Polyanitsia, and FP-1 rocket drones, as well as the Flaminga and Long Neptune cruise missiles, can reach major Russian cities, including heating and power supply facilities in Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Taking into account the climatic features of the Russian Federation and the tactical and technical characteristics of the Ukrainian strike systems, the Russian Federation is facing a harsh winter, both literally and figuratively. First and foremost, this concerns thermal power plants and other production facilities that sustain the life of major Russian cities.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
An explosion on the horizon, or for the occupier. The United Kingdom and Ukraine are deploying a top-secret weapon against drones. A new Sky Predator is destroying Iranian UAVs right in the air. The enemy doesn't even have time to hide. Cutting-edge technology has merged with Ukrainian courage in a devastating strike. A new era of drone warfare has begun, and its first blow is already resounding across the entire front. All the details are in the following report. Ukraine is strengthening its air defense not only on the front lines, but on a global scale. The United Kingdom and Ukraine have signed a historic licensing agreement to produce Ukrainian Octopus interceptor drones specially designed to counter Russian Shaheds. As Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal emphasizes, this agreement marks a new stage in international military technical cooperation, where Ukrainian technologies form the basis for mass production by partners in the defense coalition.
Mass production of interceptors is planned, which could reach several thousand units per month. The manufactured equipment will be delivered to Ukraine to strengthen the protection of our skies. Denis Mihal, Minister of Defense of Ukraine.
The Octopus project is currently in the final stage of negotiations and could be launched in the coming months. The British Minister for Defence Capability and Industry, Luke Collard, clarifies that the UK is preparing to produce about 2,000 interceptors per month. Yes, then send them directly to Ukraine.
The United Kingdom is an outstanding leader in research, development and advanced manufacturing. That's why we can provide what our Ukrainian friends are lacking in this regard. We need to be fast and we need to be first. We're starting with drones for obvious reasons. But overall, Ukraine is an important partner for us in developing the technologies needed to deter Russia and rearm Europe. Luke Pollard, UK Minister for Defence Capability and Industry.
For Ukraine, this agreement is not just about expanding drone production. It's an attempt to create a sustainable system to counter the mass Shahid attacks that the aggressor country launches against Ukrainian cities almost every night. The Octopus has already proven its effectiveness on the battlefield. It is compact, maneuverable, and inexpensive to produce. It intercepts enemy drones in the air and provides more flexible and rapid protection than traditional air defense systems. In Ukraine, 3 manufacturers have already received the necessary technologies to produce the Octopus. Another 11 are preparing their production lines. But the key factor is reaching an international scale. Launching production in the United Kingdom is an opportunity to move from dozens and hundreds of units to thousands of interceptor drones each month. Such a pace could for the first time bring the situation closer to a turning point in the drone war, where until now the numerical advantage has remained with Russia. At the same time, Ukraine is developing joint programs with the United States. There too, production is being set up for interceptor drones capable of destroying Russian strike UAVs. Washington has not specified whether this refers to the Octopus, but the trend itself is clear. Partners are moving to a formula of not only supplying, but also producing together.
Any significant military project, any critical project directly related to substantially increasing the vital supply of essential weapons to the front lines, whether it's advanced regular drones or specialized interceptor drones specifically designed for Shahed, these initiatives are absolutely crucial for effectively conducting comprehensive full-scale warfare, both in the expansive air and on the challenging ground. And projects of this kind, such as the joint production of the Octopus in the UK and in Ukraine, are even more important for the Ukrainian side. They won't bring about a turning point in the near future, let's put it that way, but at the same time they will be able to improve the safety of the skies for many, many cities.
At the same time, Ukraine is strengthening not only its defense front, but also its financial front. Kyiv and the International Monetary Fund have reached an agreement on a new 4-year support program worth $8.2 billion. As Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko emphasizes, these funds will help finance critically important expenses and maintain macrofinancial stability. Without this, neither the production of weapons nor the resilience of the defense economy is possible.
Urgently, Trump's peace plan is on the verge of collapse. The US and Russia are not finding common ground. The confrontation is only intensifying. Putin is once again pulling the blanket over to his side. The White House seems to be losing control of the situation. Washington is at the very center of the storm. Kyiv instantly takes advantage of its rival's weakness, turning the course of events in its favor. Will Trump's plan withstand such pressure? All the details coming up next.
In the corruption scandal that erupted in Ukraine known as Mindyuchgate, US Vice President J.D. Vance saw a window of opportunity. This was reported by The Atlantic. Allegedly, Vance believed that the Ukrainian authorities found themselves in an extremely weak position and therefore would instantly agree to the 28 points, as has now been confirmed. Written in Moscow. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports that the new special envoy, Dan Driscoll, who also appeared at Vance's suggestion, was promoting the so-called peace plan among European diplomats by threatening them with the overwhelming power of the Russians, ready to be unleashed not only on Ukrainians. This story is not from Ukraine. It's a story invented by the Russians and handed over as a tool specifically to negotiators close to Vance and Witkoff. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Ministry has announced that it does not see Europe at the negotiating table for peace in Ukraine. And as usual, Putin explained when the fighting would end. Ukrainian troops will withdraw from the territories they currently occupy. That's when the fighting will stop. If they don't withdraw, we will achieve this by military means. The Americans failed to get the peace plan on Trump's desk by Thanksgiving. But according to the media, they haven't abandoned the idea, and supposedly, they promised to consider security guarantees for Ukrainians only after President Zelensky signs the document. For us, the first scenario is unacceptable because But after 4 years of full-scale invasion, I understand that even when there were security guarantees back in the days of the Budapest Memorandum, none of the parties that pledged to uphold them actually did so when Ukraine was attacked. Now they're talking about an agreement without any guarantees that in 6 months, a year, or 5 years, we won't find ourselves in an even more difficult war for Ukrainian society. That's definitely not a sufficient argument. Here, the Americans, if it's true, want to push both sides. But somehow it turns out that they're pushing Ukraine much more actively. Meanwhile, after the scandal with the intercepted phone conversation between Witkov, Dmitriev, and Ushakov, the White House is pretending that nothing happened. Donald Trump got busy pardoning a turkey. Gobble, I just want to say that this is very important. You are definitely in the park here. That's really very good indeed. Who would want to harm this beautiful bird? Thank you very, very much indeed for everything. Thank you so, so much for joining us. Thank you very, very much, guys, for being here today. Meanwhile, some senators are demanding Witkov's resignation from Donald, as he is literally suspected of working for Moscow. Some analysts believe that the leak of the phone conversations is actually a demonstration of the struggle between two sides for a place closer to Trump, with Vice President Vance on one side and Secretary of State Rubio on the other. The latter, by the way, has not reacted in any way to the information about Witkov's conversations, but only to journalists' reports that not everything is so smooth and united within the Republican camp. However, analysts believe it is unlikely that Trump will actually punish Witkov.
Witkov is someone from his business circle, from real estate. He also built hotels, including in New York. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. They speak to each other in a language they both understand. There's not a drop of ideology in them. You can't spot any ideas in them at all. Neither of them cares in the slightest whether it's Republicans or Democrats. Only one thing matters: interest. I think that, as one of my well-informed interlocutors said, when Witkov came and told Donald Trump that we have a chance to get $150 billion from Russian money for some kind of joint fund, I think Trump said, go for it, go for it. Wonderful. $150 billion is exactly the kind of money you don't just find lying around. This, I truly believe, is the fundamental and most important point here. Donald Trump consistently behaves like a shrewd businessman, rather than conducting himself like a seasoned statesman or a skilled diplomat. He has his own interests. He strictly follows his own interests.
Very soon, American politicians will enter the race for voters' favor. Senate elections are scheduled for November of next year. Currently, the Republicans have a 3-seat advantage in this government body. Just recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, until not long ago, was a staunch supporter of Donald Trump, resigned, and journalist Don Bacon has announced his intention to follow her path. This means that Donald's party risks losing its majority even before the midterm elections.
With that, we conclude our broadcast. We continue to closely follow the most relevant events so we can be the first to tell you about them. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.